Taking it back to the house again, 80s style, taking some of those 80s memories, 80s nostalgia, and tucking it away into the house. House music, sunshine pop, bottom bing. Getting together and holy matrimony right there on this record. Let the sun shine in and let the beats keep on pumping. Number 12 on my fantasy playlist. Down from number 10, we got veteran DJ, BPM producer. Well, they call it EDM, but I just love BPM better. BPM just seems to have more of a oof to it. But anyway, the song is David Guetta, John Newman, a British singer-songwriter, and British DJ, Mr. Jam. Mr. Jam. Yeah, I like that. Mr. Jam. My name's Mr. Jam, and I throw down. And we're throwing down on this record. If you really love me, how will I know? That's the name of the record. It's sort of a twist on the Whitney Houston record. The chorus of the Whitney Houston record, How Will I Know, was just something that David Guetta could not resist. So basically what they did, they came up with two new verses and a pre-chorus, and they anchored it to the chorus of How Will I Know, song that came out by Whitney Houston in 1985. And I'll go into the songwriters just briefly into the Whitney Houston record in just a few minutes, because boy, gosh dog it, can't believe it's been 37 years ago since that song came out. Oh my goodness, how time flies. Starting to feel ancient. Mummified. Let's get back to this record. John Newman, I saw a YouTube comment a few minutes ago that mentioned that John Newman was an underrated singer. I agree with that, boy. He can hit some highs. He got himself a voice right there. Go back to two songs that he did. Back in 2016, Give Me Your Love, boy. That voice just really escalates, just goes right up through the chute. Give Me Your Love. He did that with Sigala, with Niles Rodgers in 2016. The Tiring Game. I love The Tiring Game. Came out back in 2015. He did that song with Charlie Wilson. Charlie Wilson. The Gap Band from back in the day. That's right. Back in the late 70s and 80s, the Gap Band. You dropped a bomb on me. Burn rubber on me. And boy, we're burning some rubber on this BPM right here. Loving it. Got some great beats to it. John Newman, he wanted to do this song for quite a while. He wanted to remake this song, him and his wife. And John Newman, he got together. There was a session that John Newman did with Mr. Jam back in the fall of 2020, and they did a rough draft. They took the chorus, they took the song How Will I Know, and they put their spin on it and did a rough draft of it. Took it into another direction. Newman sent the demo that he and Mr. Jam worked on. They sent it to David Guetta, and David Guetta, boom, he got right on it, started producing on it. And now this is so 21st century right here. What I'm about to tell you, the prevalence of how prevalent apps have become in our culture and in the entire world. This is definitely an integral part of the digital world that we live in now. There's no question about it. And, I came from the transistor world back in the old days, back in the caveman days. But still, on the final production of this record, they collaborated, David Guetta and I guess it was John Newman and Mr. Jam, or maybe it was both of them. There were actually 5 people who worked on this record, but I can't remember those other 2 guys' names. But anyway, they collaborate on the final production of this record over WhatsApp. They probably had to do that because of the pandemic and had to do this stuff remotely. But WhatsApp, gosh. You just couldn't imagine doing something like that 30 or 40 years ago. This was collaborating on an app. This would have been the stuff of science fiction 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that's pretty amazing. Now, How Will I Know? Whitney Houston. Let's go back to 1985. That was an enormous hit for Whitney Houston back when Whitney Houston could not do wrong. The people who wrote the song, How Will I Know? The original writers. And by the way, they liked They liked the remake. They enjoyed the remake. George Merrill and Shannon Rubicam, they wrote How Will I Know. They were prominent songwriters back in the 80s, and I'm stretching a little bit, but if I remember correctly, they were with the Arista record label, and they wrote How Will I Know. They were Shannon Rubicam and George Merrill. They were boy meets girl. They were boy meets girl. And in the spring of 1985, Boy Meets Girl had that lovely record, Oh Girl, that everybody's forgotten about. And of course, and then about 3 years later, they had that huge hit, Waiting for a Star to Fall. Such a scintillating record. Supposedly, they got the idea for doing that song at a Whitney Houston concert. When Whitney Houston was performing, I think it was in Los Angeles or Southern California, and or on the West Coast, and they looked up and they saw this shooting star. Now, in that, how sublime is that? Sublime is that. Boy, that blew me away. And that inspired, I believe, Waiting for a Star to Fall. But they wrote the song. They wrote the song How Will I Know originally, and they liked the remake. Shannon Rubicam even said that this was a perfect song for kitchen dancing. Just kitchen dancing too, just kind of boogie down in the kitchen, while making up some food or something. And, well, anyway, yeah, loving this BPM. Had it on my fantasy playlist for quite a while. And it's dropping down, it's starting to drop down on my fantasy playlist after spending probably a month or so, maybe more than that, in the top 10 of my fantasy playlists. But down to, from 10 to 12 on my fantasy playlist of February 13th, 2022.